Hello, beautiful soul. Today I want to talk about triggers. Whether it's a romantic relationship, a relationship with our children, or relationship with our partners, or our family members, mothers, fathers, grandparents, there are certain situations and people that make us react strongly. And we sometimes might be surprised with how strongly we react. That usually happens when we get triggered. When we get triggered, it feels almost like energy is taking over, like we are losing control. It's not a nice feeling. And we react differently depending on what we get triggered by. And I want to share with you today with 3 simple tools that we can use to support ourselves whenever we get triggered. One of them is space, looking for space. And it can mean physical space, so isolating ourselves. Sometimes it can be just for a few minutes, but it can also mean space in terms of taking a deep breath in the very moment when we get triggered, and space in terms of slowing down our response. So giving ourselves space to not say anything, even if it means just a few seconds. Your natural reaction can be that you want to say something immediately because you don't agree with something, because you feel hurt, because you feel that anger growing in you. But holding that space makes big difference, huge difference, I would say. So let that be a reminder for you. Next time you get triggered, let space remind you of taking a deep breath, slowing down in terms of you saying something back. And sometimes in a very heated moment, that space can also mean leaving to another room or leaving the house or apartment, even for a few minutes, just to give that space, because then we can come back and feel slightly different. And there is that slight change in our energy, which actually means huge change in energy, and it can really create a different outcome. The second part of the second tool I am using personally to help me in the situations where I get triggered is taking the role of an observer. So I'm telling myself, okay, Kasia, now you stop being Kasia, you change, you turn into an observer. So you become a person who observes the situation. That really helps, because all of a sudden it's not about me. And when I take that personal part away, even if it's for a few seconds, I am able to shift a perspective. And when I'm able to shift a perspective, whatever happens becomes less personal. And when it becomes less personal, it automatically becomes less hurtful. So being an observer is a great way to help us in the moments when we would normally get triggered. You just observe, you just watch the situation. You still listen, you hear what other people say or another person says, but you process it differently, because you start looking at it as it's got nothing to do with me. I'm just watching. I'm just watching the situation as if I was watching a movie. Try it next time you get triggered. And the third tool that I am using personally is curiosity. Very often when we get triggered, we are prone to judging that other person or people who trigger us and their words. And we get into the judgment, and judgment means attack. So the other person starts feeling attacked, and gets into defensive mode. And that usually also creates that energy in us. When we get triggered, we want to attack because we feel attacked. So we want to defend ourselves. By defending, we start attacking. And that's why usually a heated situation escalates very quickly. But we can slow it down. We can turn the steam down by being curious. So rather than, again, reacting to the words of that person, we can start asking questions. What specifically makes you say that? Let's slow down for a minute. What makes you say that? That's being curious. And sometimes you can ask that question out loud. It doesn't mean that the person will be in the energetical state ready to go into that dialogue with you. When that person is not ready to step into the dialogue with you where you can nicely talk about the topic, you can still remain curious by listening to that person without judgment. Remember, nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it. And here you can feel a strong energy saying, well, I'm not sure if it's true, Kasia. Like if the person accuses me of something, it's not about me giving its meaning. It's about what happens. It's the fact. It's that person accusing me of something, and that triggers me because I know it's not true. But again, nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it. So what meaning do you give that situation? What meaning do you give to the words of that person? Because we always have a choice. We can give a lot of meaning to those words, and we can also choose not to feed those words with our interpretation of them. We can allow that person to say whatever that person wants to say, but we don't have to agree with that. And we don't have to fight for our truth. We can just accept we know our truth. So be careful or be curious about the meaning that you give to certain situations. And sharing with you with those tools that I personally use, I find them supporting not only me, but also us in terms of partnerships that I have, the people that I communicate with. I'm not saying that I'm always successful, but whenever I use one of those tools or all of them, when I get triggered, they work and they really help. They help the communication. They help me to process my emotions. I find it also especially difficult, no, not difficult. I find it especially challenging when some argument takes place late in the evening and just before I go to sleep. And it happened on the occasions that I went to bed feeling angry, feeling triggered. And how can we put ourselves to sleep? So how can I calm down so that I can sleep and I can have a good rest? Because I know that we are going to sort out that argument anyway, sooner or later. But now I'm in the position when I'm risking my sleep because I feel triggered, I feel uneasy, I feel shaken, I feel like crying. And that's also a beautiful moment when you feel like that, to be present with your emotions. So when you're laying in bed and you feel like crying, cry. And ask yourself a very important question. What do I feel right now? Where in my body do I feel those emotions? How do they feel like? How do those emotions feel like? So my recent experience after a fight, which took probably weeks ago, I put my hand on my chest. I closed my eyes, the tears were falling down my cheeks. And I asked myself a question, Kasia, what is it that you feel right now? Is it sadness? Give it a name. But the name is not as important as actually feeling it. So I asked myself, where in my body do I feel it? It's in my chest. Okay. How does it feel like? It feels heavy. What color would I give it? Oh, it's dark, like dark gray, black. Is it, if it was an object, what would be its shape? What's its structure? Is it solid or is it soft? Is it gooey, chewy, or is it puffy? So I ask those questions, and that helps me. And then what I do next, with my eyes closed, I imagine a beautiful ray of light coming down from the sky. And I imagine the most beautiful light I can imagine. And I imagine that that light goes through my head and goes directly to my heart. And sometimes I imagine that it goes through my other parts of the body, depending how much tension I feel. Then I imagine that it comes to my heart or the space where I feel most heavy. And after allowing myself to feel and describe in detail that heaviness, that emotion that I am feeling so deeply, once I accepted it and I gave it space and I acknowledged it, then I put that light into that space. And I imagine how that heaviness disappears, dissolves in the light. I take a deep breath, making sure I breathe into my tummy, and then I fall asleep. I also remind myself it has no meaning except for the meaning I give it. I have a choice to give it a different meaning if that meaning doesn't serve me. And I remind myself the universe has my back always. The universe serves me. The universe wants the best for me. How can I change that situation into a gift? What lessons can I learn from the situation? But I don't have to answer those questions immediately. I can leave that for the day, for the next day. But it's important that I find that balance in myself, that I acknowledge the emotions that appeared in my body, that I listened to my body and I listened to my emotions. And only then can I process those emotions and fall asleep. Try it and let me know how it went. And if you have any questions, drop me a line. I'm Kasia Krasutska. I'm an embodiment and mindset coach for women who are ready for next. If you feel like you are ready for next in your life, career, or love, and you're looking for a guide to support you, a professional guide who has helped hundreds of women, drop me a line. I would love to meet you. Thank you for your time right now, and I hope to see you soon. Have a beautiful day. And remember, 3 tools when you get triggered: space, whether it's physical or breath, or your response is being slowed down. The role of an observer, you observe as if you were watching the film, the situation you were in, and staying curious. Stay curious. Ask what makes you say those things, what makes you act like that. No judging, just curiosity. It helps. Trust me. Have a nice day. See you soon.